may be the greatest catch I've ever seen in my life.
Okay, so yeah, we got some pretty bad landing spots here. Not going to lie. This was not what we wanted to see outside of a Trey Lance in San Francisco. This was, I don't want to call it worst case scenario, but pretty damn bad. Now, let me know what y'all are thinking down in the comment section below. Let me know if you think that I am just overreacting here and thinking that this round one didn't go exactly how we planned it to. Of course, we have no impact. We have no say in what actually happens. We can just sit here and pray, but it didn't come through. Regardless, we are going to be going through and talking about some of these players that I think lost value after round one of the NFL draft. Not all of these guys are going to be rookies. Some of them are going to be veterans. Some of them, maybe you're seeing more competition coming into their team. Maybe some of them are quarterbacks, and I really don't like what their team did. But anyway, before we get into the video, guys, please make sure you go down there, drop a like, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. And I want to remind everyone, our rookie rankings are now updated over on Patreon. We are going to continue to update them throughout the course of the entire NFL draft, throughout the course of the entire offseason with training camp news and everything that we get. So, of course, if you want to support the show, if you want access to our rookie rankings, as well as our rookie draft guide that will be available, and I want to say about probably 10 days. It'll probably take me 10 days to finalize all the rankings, make sure that we have the landing spots completely updated with how it's going to impact each prospect. But yeah, looking forward to getting out both of those things over on Patreon. Let's dive into this video, and our first player we're going to bring up is going to be Rashod Bateman. And I know with Bateman, we went through and we called Lamar Jackson a winner in the last video, which I think that's the case. Like I said, it's a nice fit. If we're talking about pure NFL fit with how it's going to change the overall efficiency of the Baltimore Ravens offense, I think it makes a lot of sense. I mean, you have Hollywood Brown as the undersized guy that possesses a ton of speed, that can clear out the field, that can allow Rashod Bateman to operate underneath alongside Mark Andrews. But if we are talking about fantasy football, if we were talking about trying to get points in our starting lineup, I mean, you do not want the wide receiver going to Baltimore. Just because the wide receiver going to Baltimore, while yes, he may be playing on a very good football team, at the end of the day, the passing volume just simply is not going to be there. And we know that efficiency can help in fantasy, but if you chase efficiency, if you try to project efficiency at the wide receiver and running back positions, you are going to be behind the eight ball. You are going to be doing such a poor job in trying to figure out how these players are going to perform. What you want to do is you want to chase volume. You want to look for those highly prolific offenses, and you want to try to identify the players that are going to be seeing high target shares. Now, in Baltimore, you're just not going to have that many targets going around. I mean, even when they do call a passing play, we know that Lamar Jackson can easily just go out there and run it. This team always leads the entire NFL in run-to-pass ratio. So Rashod Bateman, he checks every box. He goes to a situation where I think he's going to be able to drastically help Lamar. I think he's going to be able to drastically help the Baltimore Ravens. I'm just unsure if he can actually help your fantasy team. Now let's get to our next guy, and this is going to be a quarterback, and I hate what his team did. Daniel Jones. Okay, so with Daniel Jones, we've been talking about all offseason, even after the Kenny Golladay signing, that they were going to be bringing in a wide receiver in the first round of the NFL draft for Daniel Jones. Now, we were going back and forth between Waddle. We were going back and forth between Devonta Smith. But at the end of the day, they go and they get Kadarius Toney. Absolutely disgusting. Clearly, the Philadelphia Eagles trade up just to snipe the New York Giants on Devonta Smith. I mean, it would have been such a better situation for Daniel Jones if they bring in Devonta Smith rather than Kadarius Toney. Because I know we got a lot of hate from some New York Giants fans whenever we streamed the Kadarius Toney pick over on the Dynasty channel. But if you're looking at Toney, I mean, he looks like the perfect example of a wide receiver that is a bust in the NFL. He is someone that did not break out until his senior season. He is someone that more so relied on athleticism with his overall profile, when we have seen time and time and time again, if you're wanting to be a great fantasy asset, What you need is you need production, and you need that production to come at a very early age in college, and you need to be able to declare for the NFL draft. And in some cases, like the case of Devonta Smith and the case of Jalen Waddle, we are willing to give some players some just complete write-offs. They can get a pass for this because they have the situation. They played with Jerry Jeudy. They played with Henry Ruggs. They played with Jalen Waddle. I mean, they played with quality NFL wide receivers alongside the entire way. So if you don't have that elite production at a very early age, you can understand that. But in the case of Kadarius Toney, I understand he went there as a quarterback, but still Cam Akers was able to do it. So I think here it's just a very bad pick by the New York Giants. I'm hesitant to say it because I know these NFL teams know more than I do, except in the case of David Gettleman, I guess. But regardless, here, let's move on to our next guy. So this next guy is going to be T. Higgins, the obvious loser from round one. Now, the reason for this is Ja'Marr Chase coming into this situation. You're not necessarily going to be expecting T. Higgins just to fall right into the wide receiver 2 role for this offense. I think it's more so going to be wide receiver 1A, wide receiver 1B. And I think they're probably going to be almost neck and neck with targets throughout the course of Ja'Marr Chase's rookie season, just because Chase hasn't played football in a year. It's going to take him a little bit of time to get back into it. But with T. Higgins, if you would have saw them go with an offensive tackle with that 5th overall selection, you would have had Higgins most likely commanding a 25 to 30% team target share. You would have had him be one of the elite wide receivers in fantasy with his overall expected opportunity. But now with Ja'Marr Chase coming in, now that you're having Joe Burrow probably having to release the ball a little bit earlier on, we don't exactly know what the target share is going to be looking like for T. Higgins. I think that his expected 25 to 30% possibly now comes down to like a 22 to 25%. It's just lowering his floor, lowering his overall ceiling at the same time. I don't like this at all for T. Higgins. If you like this for T. Higgins, if you're trying to fool yourself into it, I think that you are doing yourself a disservice. Now, I'm not saying T. Higgins is dead or anything. I'm not saying that you need to avoid him in fantasy drafts. It's just you have to be realistic here in that T. Higgins is a player that while, yes, he's exciting, it's not like he is going to be highly efficient with the targets that he gets. It's not like he is going to be a Will Fuller type player. Hopefully, he gets the targets in the end zone. And we can say that if Zach Taylor decides to let Joe Burrow drop back and pass as much as he did in 2020, there's a ton of fantasy production to go around. If Joe Burrow can drop back and pass 50 times a game, this could easily be the Tampa Bay Buccaneers situation from 2019, with Mike Evans kind of being T. Higgins and Chris Godwin more so being the Ja'Marr Chase. But please let me know what y'all are thinking in the comment section. I know a lot of people think they should have gone offensive tackle, but we're not going to say that. We are just going to say that T. Higgins is definitely sliding down. Now, let's go over to an entire team, to be honest. Let's go over to Devonta Smith and Jalen Reagor. And I know we called Jalen Hurts a winner on our last video, but here we can say Devonta Smith is a loser because it's the same situation as Rashod Bateman. Well, yeah, he's a great fit for this offense. He's exactly what the Philadelphia Eagles needed, and I am almost all in on Jalen Hurts in fantasy. I am so high and so bullish on Jalen Hurts, yet we can say with confidence that this situation isn't great because the passing volume isn't going to be there. And in the case of Jalen Reagor, I will say for 2021 redraft fantasy football, Jalen Reagor's dead. No reason in drafting him. I mean, yeah, he is only 22 years old. Yeah, you don't want to give up on a player that early. But what is the upside here in this specific case for Jalen Reagor now that he is going to be the wide receiver 2 on an offense that shouldn't have a lot of passing volume? I think that there is simply no upside to be found. In the case of Devonta Smith, I think that the upside's probably going to be a mid-wide receiver 2 just because this situation isn't great, guys. I know that there are really not many wide receivers to be competing for with targets in Philadelphia, but I would rather Devonta Smith go into a situation where he has to compete for targets rather than him to go into a situation where the target volume isn't there with the team to begin with. Okay, so now let's keep it with the trend of going team to team. Let's go over to Jacksonville, and let's talk about James Robinson and Travis Etienne. So Travis Etienne was my official running back 1 going into the NFL draft. Yet now, I think you have to be dropping him down. He clearly falls behind Najee Harris. It's going to depend where Javonte Williams gets drafted today, where we are going to be expecting to draft Travis Etienne. But in the case of James Robinson also, this is what we talked about. I know a lot of people wanted to give me hate. I know a lot of people hated to hear the realistic fact that this team could have looked to go running back. Now, I did not expect them to take Travis Etienne in round 1. I do not want to act like I knew that was going to happen at all. But what we were worried about is we were worried about this team possibly taking a guy like Kenneth Gainwell in the 3rd round, going, you know what? They have really no other running backs in the backfield outside of James Robinson. They're going to have to address the position regardless. We don't know what type of team investment that's going to be. And by them taking Travis Etienne, that shows us that James Robinson is not dead in fantasy, but his ceiling and his floor are both drastically lowered. And I will just address the fact that I know that Urban Meyers came out and said that Travis Etienne is going to be their 3rd down running back. I will say you rarely see teams invest 1st round NFL draft capital for a 3rd down running back. That almost never happens. And this is what we talked about with Jordan Love. This is what we talked about with A.J. Dillon. This is what we always talk about. What you want to pay attention to, especially during the offseason, is not what the coaches are saying. What the coaches are saying, it doesn't matter at all. It literally doesn't. I mean, we had reports 2 weeks ago saying, oh, Aaron Rodgers and the Green Bay Packers are just perfectly happy with each other. They're going to be together forever. And today, reports break that that's not the case. I mean, this is just wishy-washy. It doesn't matter. What matters is the team investment made into the running backs. And James Robinson, undrafted free agent, Travis Etienne, 1st round selection. I think we can sit here and we can be grown-ups about this and look at the fact that, hey, Travis Etienne probably going to be getting the majority of touches here. Now, James Robinson, still, he's not going to go to a backup role. There's no way that they can just relegate James Robinson to a complete backup role given what he did